Okay, I'm back. So just need to sort out the feedback. It turns out Helen and I are actually in the same location. So of course she's my wife. So you guys can see my voice was sounding on the other side of the room. So anyway, welcome everyone. We are still hoping that we have more people because I've got a lot more people who actually accepted the invite. So we're expecting more people today. But more than all that, we are super excited to have Chinua and Gideon in our midst. Those of us who have actually started this program from like the first week up until now, today is our grand finale and we are super excited. But having Chinua and Gideon in the house, our excitement has gone off the roof. And so we are happy to have them in our midst. I will quickly go through an introduction to, about the two of them, and we will take it from there. But before I go on with that, our very own Helen Oluyemi is here, who has been our chief facilitator for the past 8 weeks. And for those of us who are joining today for the first time, never mind, you are still going to learn a lot from these wonderful individuals. They are super professionals who have been in the cybersecurity industry for years, and we are going to learn so much from them today. I know that I may not be here fully because I have to jump between multiple of our classes that are actually ending today, but Helen is definitely here, and then we will have all going to have a wonderful time learning. And so I will start with Gideon. I'm sure Gideon isn't new to this place, however, but I will still introduce Gideon regardless. And so for those of us who are meeting him for the first time, Gideon is an IT expert with over 6 years of experience in cybersecurity and risk management industry, specifically in IT security and risk management, information systems audit, SOC attestation, incident response, vulnerability management, security control assessment, penetration testing, data privacy audits to deliver value to businesses. His consulting experience spans oil and gas, pharmaceutical companies, and telecoms and financial related entities. Right now, Gideon Babatunde is a cybersecurity risk consultant at KPMG Canada, and it is a pleasure to have Gideon in our midst. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Gideon Babatunde into our midst. Before I go on to Chinua.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. We are happy to have you. And so to Chinua, Chinua is an experienced and versatile cybersecurity professional with several years of experience in various domains, including risk management, security operations, incident response, penetration testing, vulnerability management, cloud security, network and endpoint security, web application security. He's got almost all of those. He led the implementation of ISO 27001, ISO 27017, and PCI DSS certification standards in his previous organization. He holds several professional certifications, including CISSP, CEH, Pentest Plus, CISA Plus, Security Plus, AWS certified cloud professional or practitioner, and then ISO 27001 lead implementer. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to also welcome Chinua Katchy. Is the current information security analyst at Templify in Germany. Welcome, Chinua. We are happy to have you in our midst today.
Thank you so much, Amiable, for that introduction. I'm really happy to be here, and I hope we are all going to enjoy this session today.
Yes, and lastly, to our very amazing host, Helen Oluyemi. She's going to be marshalling and moderating the session. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've got any questions whatsoever, please drop it in the chat. She's going to be doing justice to it, making sure that our guests are actually answering those questions. They are here to help as much as possible. They've got passion to actually help as many of you on this call to actually either grow your career in cybersecurity or even transition into cybersecurity. It is an amazing field, trust me. for me, I will jump onto the next class and I would hand over to Helen and she will take it from here. Thank you very much and God bless.
Thank you, Mole, for the introduction. Welcome, Chinua. Welcome, Babatunde. Yeah, I think Imole did not read about identification as well. He has a lot of certificates in cybersecurity. When it comes to Gideon and Chinua, they inspires me when it comes to writing exams. You know, they are the gurus, and I believe they think it's first class. I mean, during the undergrad. Anyways, yeah. Welcome everyone, and so today's session. Where do we? Okay, so let me just allow Gideon to introduce himself, and then I will give the mic to Chinua to introduce himself before we get started. If you can hear us, please, you can say hi in the chat. Just say hi, and that shows we are all participating. Yeah, thank you, Gideon. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Helen. You know, as usual, it's a pleasure to be here. You know, I was, for those of us who are just joining the session, I was here last week, you know, to also share some, you know, insights on other topics. But just as she introduced me, I am a cybersecurity consultant currently working with KPMG Canada. I have, you know, years of experience in cybersecurity in several areas, even besides consulting. And, you know, it's really good to be here to, you know, discuss with those of us who are coming into the cybersecurity profession. I have, you know, trainings. I've undergone trainings in several areas of cybersecurity, you know, risk management, security engineering, you know, audits. And so I would be giving you that perspective, you know, in our discussion today. And hopefully, you know, I would be able to, you know, answer whatever questions the participants have for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Chinua.
Okay, hi everyone. So like I said, I'm really happy to be here. I've been working in InfoSec for about 6 to 7 years now. I've held various job titles over the years, and it would be nice to really share my experience with the audience, because when I was trying to get into cybersecurity, so I didn't have any mentors, I didn't have any forums or platforms like this to ask questions. So basically had to do a lot of trial and error, and it took me a long time to eventually figure it out. I hope it's not going to take you guys that long. So just feel free to ask any questions you want to ask.
All right, thank you, Chinua, for the introduction. Okay, so, Chinua, you might want to go first, and then Gideon will go second. So how did you get started in cybersecurity? Like, I want to hear the bittersweet story. I mean, and okay, how did you even get to Templify? You know, what were the kind of processes you were going? Is it just so easy like that? I mean, just give us your story and so that people can learn from.
Okay, so how I started, yeah, so I studied computer science in the university. So when I was small, I've always liked computers, so I always knew that I was going to do something IT related. So I studied computer science in the university, but computer science is a very broad field. So when I was in my final year, I was trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do in IT after I finished the university. So there was programming, there was networking, there was cybersecurity, there was UI UX. Programming was out of use because I never liked to code right from the beginning. I suck at coding, so it was one less option for me. So I think when I started to pick interest in cybersecurity was when I did a course titled Information System Security in my final year in the university. That's when I got to learn about basic concepts in cybersecurity, like different types of malware, different type of hackers and things like that. So I started to pick interest in cybersecurity. And also one of the things that motivated me to go into cybersecurity was because, so the country where I come from, where most of us come from, Nigeria. So I'm sure you all know that Nigerians have a very terrible reputation outside. So when you tell a foreigner that you are a Nigerian, they don't want to speak with you. They don't want to have anything to do with you because they think you're a fraudster or you're a scammer. So that was part of the things that motivated me to also go into cybersecurity as well. So I started to do a lot of research online, and so most of the articles I read recommended that you should go for a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or maybe a certification. Going for another degree wasn't going to be possible for me, so I decided to start doing certifications. And so a lot of experts recommended that you should start with an entry-level certification like CompTIA Security Plus. So that was where I started from. I got my CompTIA Security Plus in 2018, and also my certified ethical hacker in 2018. And that was when I got my first job as a cybersecurity engineer. So I've been applying for a long time to different companies, but it wasn't successful until I started working in my last company at Layer 3. So I was working as a security engineer for my first 2.5 years. And then sometime in 2020, I got promoted to the role of information security manager, which was what I was doing for the past year and a half before I got another job offer in Germany. So I came into Germany about a month ago. I'm currently working as an information security analyst at Templify. So that's how I got here.
So was it just that easy for us to move from Nigeria to any country, be an expert in cybersecurity? I mean, how easy was it for you? So people just, I'm just talking on behalf of the audience, maybe people in Nigeria or outside the country, they might be thinking, oh, I got a job in Germany, then I should be able to get one in 2 days or in 1 week or 1 month. Can you kind of give us like an insight into how that's happened?
Okay, so that's a great question, Helen. So sometime last year, I decided that I wanted to move out of the country because, to be honest, I feel as a tech person, it's hard to maximize your potential if you are living in Nigeria. So I made that decision sometime last year. So just to give you a summary, it took me 5 months from when I started applying for jobs to when I eventually got my first offer. So it took me 5 months. I interviewed with over 50 companies. Yeah. 54 as at the last time I counted. I did close to about 70 interviews. Yeah, so
70 interviews.
Yep. So within 5 months, I did about 70 interviews. So sometimes you do the first round and then they tell you it wasn't successful. Sometimes you do the first round, second round, and they tell you it wasn't successful. Most companies in Europe usually do 4 to 5 rounds of interviews. My current company, I did 5 rounds of interviews. So it took me a long time actually to find a job in Germany. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because I was basically doing interviews every single day for about 5 months before I eventually got. Yep. So before I eventually got an offer, I actually got 2 offers eventually. So I had to pick between 2 different companies. So it wasn't easy, but at the end of the day, I feel like it was.
Yeah, you pulled through. Yeah, so it's just a quick lesson, really. We didn't just all get to where we are now. It's, you know, like knowing one or one answer somewhere. It's through hard work and God's grace and consistency, right? Like I was saying initially, like these guys, they motivate me. Like when it comes to writing exams, studying, not just writing exams, we literally like read everything, study everything. There's always a challenge, one way or the other, but there is no giving up. The passion is there. I mean, there is something about, oh, I want to become a cybersecurity expert. I'm ready to give in the work. And just look at what Gideon said. It took him 5 months, 70 interviews, 54 companies. It's not a joke, actually. And I can only imagine, I mean, the kind of mentor or I mean, how this would kind of affect his mental awareness or his esteem. But at the end of the day, you have to even say, okay, particular company I'm not working with. So you have to reject an offer or reject many offers. You understand it? So, well, let me thank you, Chinua, for that. It's not an introduction, like a summary of your journey. Yeah, and then to Gideon, yeah, we want to hear your success story, the past success story.
Yes, thank you, Helen. Yeah, so for my background, I would say, I started frankly, I've always been, an IT person. I read my first and second degree, my bachelor's and master's degree was in computer science, specifically in ICT, communications, networking and all of that. I've always had that background, but I think when I finished school, that's my first degree, I delved into software development, which, is kind of unusual for someone who used to be, a software developer to, transition to cybersecurity. And what happened was, I actually worked then with a smaller software development company. They developed web applications, enterprise applications for so many clients. Then I was in Nigeria, specifically Abuja. And so, over time, I looked at it. I looked at my career and said, I didn't see myself programming for 10 years, right? It's not something I would enjoy doing for the next 10 years, and so I started looking for other options. But prior to that, when I did my master's degree, I also specialized in artificial intelligence. I had a research, and I would say that research I did had the potential to to also make me money. But considering the environment I was in back then in Nigeria, I noticed that artificial intelligence, if you're an AI specialist, there's not much room for you to thrive, right? And so I abandoned that path. I also abandoned I abandoned my programming part as well. I used to work with C#, .NET, Visual Basic, ASP.NET, and all of that, but I left it. And then I moved into cybersecurity. I think the turning point for me was, when I started looking for options, what other aspect of IT, of computer science do I want to, go into? Then I started my research, which is a key thing I will encourage, every participant to do. If you want to, not just IT, anything you want to do, before you go into it, you always have to conduct your research. I had so many papers, so many sticky notes I had, based on the research I did, what aspect of, so how lucrative is the field, how lucrative is cybersecurity. Mind you, I also explored data analytics, so AI, data analytics, software development. I started trainings, and so, eventually I kind of, found that niche for myself and said, okay, this is something I see myself doing long term, and it's very lucrative based on, the average salaries, I'm seeing at that time. And fortunately, I had a network of, professionals. Chinua is also my very good, colleague in that area. We were able to, discuss so many things. I then started my, my training. My IT training started with CompTIA Security Plus. Although so for me, I would say, which is also something I will encourage, the participants to do. I like to learn, generally, I always want to learn new things. And so, when I took up that CompTIA Security, I took it, I learned, I gained so much knowledge from it. And then surprisingly, the first certification I took then was CISA, the Certified Information Security Auditor. And fortunately, I also had, a very good mentor. He's one of the best. He's a very good mentor from Nigeria anyway. And he was able to, bring me up to speed. I kind of looked up to him. I really wanted to be like him. And that, having a mentor, having, a model in the field also kind of, motivated me to get where I am today. Prior to working with KPMG Canada, I worked with KPMG Nigeria as well. I was able to learn so much. Generally, working with the Big Four is a great experience. And so yeah, that has been my journey so far.
Well, so can we also hear your story about how you were able to break into the Canada markets, from Nigeria, and boom, Canada. A lot of people just want to be looking to work with work with 5 people. Can you just give us like the sweet story behind that?
Okay, I think relatively, my journey was not so challenging. When I say, relatively compared to, what my peers or, people like us face, I was fortunate, enough to get this Canada permanent residence visa. then I was in KPMG Nigeria. So I got that visa, and, I had the authorization to, travel. And so, when I had that opportunity, I fortunately, which is another thing I also, mentioned to the participants, I can't overemphasize the importance of networking with colleagues, in that same field. So even if you are not yet in cybersecurity and you want to, you see yourself going there, then you have to network. LinkedIn is a very good tool. Your office environment is also a very good environment, for you to network. And so I started reaching out to people, when I was back in Nigeria, reaching out to them. Hi, I see you work at social company, I'm looking to move to Canada shortly. Can I get this job? And, before I spoke to 3 people, I was very fortunate that a lady, she's also Nigerian, interestingly, who worked at my present office, was interested, in having that discussion with me on LinkedIn. We had a chat, and she said, okay, I can see, the experience you have, from KPMG Nigeria also tallies with what we do here. And so I will refer you. And that was how, I was very fortunate. So yeah, that was my, that was my own experience.
Yeah. Thank you, Gideon. Before I give the mic to Ruth to ask a question, there is something you mentioned that caught my attention. And there was a time I was just scrolling through LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm big on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like my Instagram or Twitter anyway. You mentioned something about networking, and somebody said something that a lot of cybersecurity fireside chats on how to break into cybersecurity. People will tell you write certifications, go for masters and everything, but they fail to measure something around networking. The thing is, now we are rounding up this session today, and I'm expecting us, people that has been in the session, to kind of, tell people about what you've learned in the last 8 weeks. Put it on LinkedIn and say, oh, or even though you've been doing some training in cybersecurity or around that, just write it on LinkedIn. Tag people, cybersecurity careers, a lot of things. Put yourself out there. That's the most important thing. I mean, beyond your technical skills or training or whatever you've done, it's important that you put yourself out there and just tell people about what you learn. You never can tell, people, in the praise of people liking or commenting on your post, that means your post is getting more visibility. And from there, people might reach out to you and say, oh, I kind of like your drive or your passion, your consistency over the week or over the days. And you might just get a lot of people from cybersecurity. So networking is important. So thank you, Gideon, for that. Ruth, can you ask your question before I continue with the participant? So Ruth, the mic is, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Helen. My question is, how do you deal with being overwhelmed with this, should I say industry? Yes, with the industry, being overwhelmed. There is so many things to dip your hands into. And as a beginner or entry level, I'll say beginner. As a beginner, how do you deal with this? I don't know. I won't call it pressure really, but how do you deal with the whole, there are so many resources out there. There are so many things that you can start with, but how do you deal with being overwhelmed with so much of everything?
Okay, Gideon, Chinua, do you get the question? And do you understand the question? Do you want to answer?
Okay, yeah, maybe I can go first. So how I deal with being overwhelmed. I guess the context in which you're asking the question is probably on the job, when okay, just to clarify, Ruth, do you mean on the job? You mean the work pressure, or you mean, career building? When you talk about how do you, when you ask how do we handle pressure, are you talking about the pressure of, being stable in that profession, or you're talking about the work pressure? Just to clarify.
Building a career, not work pressure. I'm still an undergraduate, but
okay.
I'm finding it hard to, I don't know, I won't say finding it hard. I'm picking interest almost every 2 weeks in one aspect or the other. So how do you deal with, there are so much to do. How do you define your path exactly? That should be what I'm trying to ask.
Okay. Yeah. So I would answer you from based on my own experience, right? Because I had this kind of pressure, especially in Nigeria, where they kind of give us that's for those of our participants in Nigeria, or any other institution where you kind of do a generalized course in IT. They don't make you specialize, say, okay, I want to go into digital forensics, or if you are coming from any other field besides IT, right? I would encourage you to always start with research, right? You need to research on what aspect. So if you have decided that, okay, I want to go into cybersecurity, then you need to find out what role, what aspect am I interested in, because I can tell you cybersecurity is very broad, and there are so many other roles that you might not see yourself doing for a long time, because maybe it's boring, it's not challenging enough, or it's probably too challenging. So when you do that research and you know what each role entails, and you're able to find the one you are interested in, say, okay, you're interested in penetration testing, or you're interested in security engineering, right? Once you have that clear picture based on your research, then you can develop a roadmap, right? So as a security engineer, what are the skills I need to know? That's the next question you ask yourself. Okay, I think I see myself, becoming a security engineer. What are the skills I need to know? What timeline do I need to set to achieve these skills? Okay, if you find out, I need to have, very technical knowledge about, network infrastructure. You need to have, very solid knowledge on cloud computing or cloud security. When you start, breaking down the objective into subtasks, you would have a clearer picture, you have a timeline, you have a schedule, and you'll be able to work with that. Yeah, that's it from me.
Just to add to what Gideon has said, so I feel like it's important for you to have very clear goals of what you want to achieve. So usually what I do is that I usually write down the list of certifications that I want to write in a particular year. I usually write down the list of trainings that I want to do and the skills that I also want to improve on in a certain period of time. Because if you don't do that, what is going to happen is that, like you said, there are tons of resources, tons of materials out there, and you might start maybe learning scripting today, and tomorrow someone will tell you, no, leave scripting, come and learn risk management. And you start with risk management, and tomorrow somebody will tell you cloud security is a new thing, and then you leave that. At the end of the day, you see that you just know a little bit of everything, but you're not particularly skilled at anything. So it's very important for you to have very clear goals of that's after you've done your research. You need to write down what exactly you want to improve on. So if it's certifications, if it's training, if it's skills, it's also important to also get a study partner or someone that can motivate you to maybe you guys study together, or you guys normally motivate yourself. Like when I was studying for my CISSP, myself and Gideon, we actually studied for it together. We also did a lot of practice questions together. And at the moment, we're also studying for some Microsoft certifications together. So it's very important for you to have someone that would also motivate you, because there are periods of time where you would lose motivation, and if you don't really have anybody to talk to, just give up altogether.
Yeah, that's true. You set your goals and then you look for a motivational partner. That is important, actually. And I can relate to what Chinua said. Like, it's not easy, actually. Just saying, oh, I want to achieve this particular goal today, and because the process might be hard, or the process is hard, right? But because you have someone that motivates you, and or that also has that same goal, you kind of push yourself to to move forward. And I think what somebody dropped a question on the chat that my question is, how do you remain consistent with learning and networking? My problem is blowing hot and cold and inability to maintain focus, even while knowing the roadmap to follow. So this person is saying, okay, I have a goal in mind. I know that I want to become a security expert tomorrow or in the next 3 months. However, how do I remain consistent with learning and networking? Chinua, Gideon.
So I think it still boils down to my earlier point of having a network and circle of friends that can motivate you. So if you have friends who have similar goals to you, then sometimes even when you lose motivation, and the truth is that everybody loses motivation at some point in time. So there are periods where I'm studying for maybe a certification or a certain skill, and then I may not even study for 2 weeks or 1 month or even 2 months because I also lose motivation from time to time. So that's why it's very important for you to have a circle of friends that have similar goals and ambition to you as well.
Yeah, and I would say okay. Yeah, Gideon, do you want to talk?
Okay, yeah. So just to add to what Chinua said, right? You should that objective you have, right? The objective you have, it's always, you should always write it down, on paper, right? You don't just have it in your head, right? Write it down on paper, write it down on your sticky note, right? And place it on your workspace, right? Somewhere where every single day you set your eyes on it. And that is how you, not just career, decisions. That's how every other decision you make, in order to be consistent, right, and to be accountable, you should always put it down on paper and have it somewhere where you see it every day. That's how I did mine anyway.
Yeah. Thank you, Chinua. And just to add to that, the thing is, even if you don't have a friend that has the same goals as yours, then you can get yourself a mentor. I think that one is really important. Like somebody that you could actually be accountable to, right? Okay, my goal is to put this in another 3 months, but I don't have friends or people around me that has the same goal. But you can get yourself a mentor, and that mentor will definitely ask you questions. What have you done? A lot of things. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so before I answer Shini's question, let me ask this question. So Gideon or Chinua, anyone of you can go first. In your opinion, what are the most important skills a cybersecurity professional should focus on when starting out? What are the most important skills a cybersecurity professional should focus on when starting out? What do you think?
Okay, maybe I can go first. So in my opinion, I would say, because I'm speaking from cybersecurity consulting, experience, where you get to manage different kinds of cybersecurity projects, engagement. Today, clients want you to do a risk assessment. Tomorrow, clients want you to develop security policies. Next tomorrow is an audit, right? Just if you are in that kind of work environment, a very dynamic work environment, where you get dynamic tasks, I would say there are primary skills and there are secondary skills. Now, the primary skills are the ones that you require to do the job, like the immediate task at hand. If you are doing a vulnerability assessment, what kind of skills do you need to have? You need to know how to use vulnerability scanning tools. You need to know how to interpret vulnerability reports, and things like that. Those are the primary skills you need to develop. Now, I'm speaking more generically, right? Because there are so many roles. Okay, if you are, say you are a compliance analyst, right, and your duty is just to ensure that all the business processes, the operation in that in the organization is compliant to whatever framework, whatever regulation, then the primary skills you need are what will help you conduct that job immediately, right? And then the secondary skills, which I will regard as like semi-soft skills or soft skills, like having project management skills, right? Having presentation and communication skills, which applies not only to IT but every other job, that requires interaction with either your teammates, your clients, or whatever. That secondary skill, as I mentioned, will also help you grow in your career, so you can grow from, if you were a junior level, if you're at a junior position, that secondary skill can help you get opportunities, right, and can also help you grow in terms of career or professionally. Thank you.
All right, sir.
So to add to what Gideon has said, for me, I feel one of the most important skills that you should have if you're trying to go into cybersecurity or IT in general is that you need to have this ability to learn things on your own, because nobody is going to teach you everything. There is no training or certification that is going to make you an expert or teach you everything you need to know. So you need to have this ability to research and figure out things on your own. So I feel like that's the most important skill if you are trying to go into cybersecurity or IT in general.
All right, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Chinua. Thank you, Gideon. There is a question from Shay. Shay is asking, what are the challenges and limitations for someone transitioning into cybersecurity, especially for some certificates? So I think what Shay is trying to say here is that, okay, I don't have basic computer science or IT, and how do I build the cybersecurity market? What are challenges and limitations for that kind of person?
Okay, so just to recap, the question is what are the challenges you might face from transitioning from one profession to cybersecurity, correct?
Yes, so I think she said I don't have a degree in cybersecurity and computer science. I have a degree in microbiology. What are the limitations and challenges transitioning into cybersecurity? So I think from what she is asking me, say for instance, many organizations will say, okay, 2 years of work experience in cybersecurity or a BSc in computer science, and I have BSc in microbiology and marketing. How do I apply for such a job?
That's a very good question, Shay. I think so the perspective I'll be giving you would be, for someone who is already inside in the field, right? Frankly, I might not give you that holistic, perspective, because I didn't, come in from another field, but I have friends who did. As I'm speaking to you, I have friends because there's this training, Roger Cybersecurity, accelerated cybersecurity training here in Canada, right? And I have colleagues who have, gotten into the program. So I think some of the challenges you will have is even after training yourself, because that's one of, you don't want to go back to school to take a degree. So you just have to train yourself and say, okay, I'm going to start with, say, CompTIA Security Plus, which is the base level, security certification. And I'm going to train myself for 3 months. And by the time I'm done, right, I can start looking into the market. One of the bigger challenges you will face is, they will look at, most companies companies like to hear, that you have experience, on the job. So I will tell you, you have to start looking for, in most cases, you might have to look for internship. Sometimes it might be paid, sometimes it might be unpaid, but you might actually need that internship. And let me give you a real world example. I know an individual who, has been trying to break into the service. Just, he's from another profession. He told me he was a sales manager at Walmart, and he had been trying to, get into this field. He told me to please refer him, for internship at my organization. And unfortunately, that opportunity did not come up, right? I discussed it with my senior manager, but the opportunity did not come up. And I encouraged him that, look, just continue your training, right? He had done so many trainings. And to my amazement, I saw that he finally got into the field. He started a position, a full-time, not even an internship. But, these are some of the limitations you face. They'll say, oh, okay, yes, we can see you have this certification, but you don't really have a background in IT. So what can you just tell us what other experience you have? Have you, then you now leverage on that internship that you have done. You say, oh, yes, for 6 months. And trust me, there are so many internship opportunities, right? There are so many. You just have to look and keep looking. If Chinua, my colleague here, could apply for 70 jobs, I believe, if you are really motivated, you can, have that same mindset and say, look, I'm going to, put my foot down, put my head down, and if I don't get the job, get a full-time job, I'm also open to doing that internship. I did back in Nigeria, when I started my cyber career, I did my IT in NITDA. That was my very internship for a year, security, and actual experience I had at the organization. So yes, you face, those are some of the challenges I'm aware of that you might face, but yeah, you just have to be resilient and you'll pull through. Have I been able to answer your question, Shay?
Oh, yes, he said yes. Sorry, my mic went off. I think it's the same question as what Orire is asking. Orire is saying, how do I transition from a total different job into cybersecurity? Okay, it's different. Where would you advise one to start from? I think Chinua might want to answer that one, or Gideon, anyone. So yeah.
So I think it depends on your background really and where you are starting from or coming from. So, but generally, I usually advise people to start with an entry level certification, because going to do another bachelor's degree, it's not really feasible, and not everybody can afford to do 1 year or 2 years master's degree. So certifications are like the cheapest option for you to get your foot into the door. And then when it comes to certifications, so you need to do your research and look at entry-level certifications that you might want to take. So you can look at CompTIA Network Plus if you don't have any knowledge of networking at all, or you can go straight to the CompTIA Security Plus. CompTIA Security Plus is the best entry-level certification when it comes to starting out in cybersecurity. So you can start doing more research on that and see how it goes. But usually it's best to start with an entry-level certification, and then after that try to get an internship or full-time job, and then from there that's where you can start from.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I'm not sure I even have any comments on that as well. Okay, so my question now is to Chinua or Gideon. What are your recommended platforms or podcasts or personality for cybersecurity news, tips, and trends? Like, how do I get myself updated?
Yeah, so for me, I've subscribed to a lot of blog posts and YouTube channels. I've actually lost track of a lot of this, because usually when I wake up every day and I check my emails, that's all I see. So for example, there's the Hacker News, I think hackernews.com. So you can subscribe to their newsletter. They usually send out a lot of good information. There's also Thread Post as well. So Thread Post 2 is also a blog that you can subscribe to. I'm also subscribed to the US SAT. So usually whenever there are security threats or vulnerabilities, I usually get those emails from the US government. And basically on my LinkedIn, all I see is cybersecurity posts. So that's how I keep up with what is going on in the industry.
Yeah, no, thank you. Gideon.
Oh yes, from my end, I think for me, I get most of my insights from YouTube channels. I think one I can recommend is Cyber Mentor. Another one is IT Dojo, right? And so for the others, yeah, there are so many blogs out there, that you could get that information from. I don't have a particular blog. In my case, right, there are depending on the subject. So if say I'm conducting a research on how to penetrate ICS, industrial control systems, right, then I will have to go out and look at many blogs, right? Because to really have information about a subject, you need different perspectives to it. By the time you look at multiple, then you can get that information. But yeah, I think the YouTube channels are always very good. Whatever topic you want to learn, you want to learn web app pen test, you want to always go to YouTube channels. I would recommend IT Dojo, right? I would also recommend LinkedIn, right? On LinkedIn, there are so many training, channels, Pluralsight, Cybrary. You can take this down: Pluralsight, Cybrary, LinkedIn, then YouTube. And I think, yeah, those sources will give you good information about any topic, any cybersecurity topic you are looking for.
Thank you. You guys have made justice to that. So another question from me. Participants, we're expecting your questions. I shouldn't be asking the questions anyway, but I'm just trying to read our mind and ask the question on your behalf. But it would be really nice if you drop your questions as well. So my question is, what is the best way to break into cybersecurity and get that first job after graduating from a particular boot camp or training or self-learning? What is that best way? What would you recommend?
So there's no single way to invest. I'm sure if you speak to 10 different professionals, they will give you 10 different journeys of how they got into InfoSec. But what I would say is, so like Gideon has mentioned before, networking is very, very important. So the reason why I'm saying this is that there are lots of job vacancies that don't even make it to the job boards because someone has already even taken them up through networking. So it's very important for you to have a very wide network. And if you're looking for a job, let people know that you are looking for a job. So I didn't mention this, but my last company that I worked for, Layer 3, there was no job vacancy that was out there that was put there. I was just speaking with a friend and she told me she was working at Layer 3 as a security engineer. So I decided to look up the company and I just sent them an email to apply for the position of security engineer, even though there was no vacancy. And that was how they called me for the interview and I got the job. So it's very important for you to network. LinkedIn is one platform that you should take like very serious. So these days I use my LinkedIn even more than any other social media platform. So LinkedIn is very important. You need to have a very good profile. You should have a nice profile picture too as well, and send out a lot of connection requests to people that are in your industry that you want to connect with.
Sorry, why the nice profile picture though?
Yeah, I think it's very important. Yeah, so I mean, it's very important for you to have a picture that looks not too serious. Yeah, maybe except if you want to work in a big four like Gideon, but it doesn't have to be too serious looking. Yeah, so like my company, it's a very relaxed dressing culture, so you don't have to wear suit and all of that, but you should at least look professional, have a nice haircut and stuff like that. Yeah, because the employers actually look out for these things. Recruiters actually look out for these things. Some recruiters might see your profile, see your picture, and they just discard it because they don't even like your face. So it's very important for you to have a nice picture on your LinkedIn profile.
Okay. All right. So, Gideon, do you have more comments?
I believe Chinua has actually touched on the key things in my opinion that I would also have shared. Yeah.
Okay. We're waiting for your questions anyway. I think I still have more questions there. So which career paths would you prefer? I mean, is it the IC means in the individual contributor, like you don't want to manage someone, just want to be a senior engineer, staff engineer, that kind of a thing? Or would you prefer the management part? And at what point in one career can that decision be made? So let's start with Chinua.
Yeah, I mean, so it really depends on what you prefer. Not everybody likes to manage people. Not everybody wants to be a manager. So some people just like to be individual contributors. Some people just like to do their stuff in the background and go home without having to worry about all the pressure that comes with being a manager. So it really depends on what you like. So in my last role, I was working as an InfoSec manager, and the role became too what's the word I'm going to use? It became too high level for me. So I wasn't really doing the things that I really like to do, which is to play with computers and break things and mess around with stuff here. So I wasn't really enjoying it that much. And that's why I decided that in my next role, I wanted to move back to a more technical role where I'm going to be an individual contributor. But if you like to be a manager, why? Sure. I mean, once you have like 2, 3, 4 years experience, you can start looking at making that transition into a managerial role.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Chinua. Gideon. Over to you.
Okay, I think from my perspective might be quite contra, what's the word now? Different. And why is because, essentially, whatever you do, whatever profession you choose, right? I feel, you want to make money, right? You want to be rewarded for it. And so, well, that's for me as an individual. Money is also a good motivation, to pursue what I want, to go after it and know that I'll be rewarded, in the best possible way. And if that is what you want to do, if that's what you want to achieve, if you want to make good money from that profession, I think I would encourage you to look, don't I would encourage you to work, in more managerial positions, right? If those opportunities come up on your job, you should always take them, and that is because IT, right? The kind of the perception about IT is that it is not core business, right? That IT is just a business enabler, right? It's just a division, right? There are other divisions within the business, like sales and marketing, which is like the powerhouse of the business, the engine room. Then you have the operations, right? And so if you find yourself in IT and you are someone who, you want to make more money, definitely you have to find your way to the top. And the top guys are not they are not really security managers, right? They are more business friendly per people, e.g. enterprise risk guys. And so if you have that if you have that motivation that you want to make more money, you want to get to the top, then whatever managerial position comes up, you should always take it. And I think what I will add is there comes a time when probably you are at the midpoint of your career in cybersecurity, where you'll be looking to transition into more business friendly positions. What I mean by business friendly is, say, the vice president or the SVP, right, or the COO or the CEO, right? Those kind of positions, businesses like to give people who are not really technical, right, who are more, business minded in terms of strategy, right? Strategic reasoning, strategic direction, for the company, for the business. You should, if you have that in mind, then even from the get-go, you should start setting that path for yourself. Okay, today I start out as a compliance analyst. Tomorrow I become the maybe chief risk officer or chief privacy officer. Next tomorrow I move strictly into enterprise risk management. If you find yourself in enterprise risk, right, I think, in my opinion, you have a very good chance to, at one point in your career, be the number one person in that organization. And that will have, that path that you have set for yourself will help you move from where you are, being a very technical person, to being the number one person in the organization. And of course, more money will come from that.
Yeah, that's correct. But Gideon, I think not everybody wants to kind of have people they're managing, right? Especially for technical guys, I would say people that likes anything technical, I mean, just get their hands dirty and everything. They might want to choose the individual contributor part where they become like a staff engineer, but they're not managing anybody, in quotes, like from senior to principal engineer to staff engineer. And that might be like, a kind of passion for them. Like, no, I don't want the trouble of having subordinates. And does that mean that the person will not make money? Well, I think let's
engage the participants now. So apart from the money, right, you will find out that, okay, so I'm trying to be, more. I want to give you a real world a real world scenario. So if you started out as a security analyst, then you move to security engineer, right? Security engineer is one of the most technical roles you can have, and it pays good money, right?
Yeah.
From my understanding, right, from what I understand about the industry, eventually, there are more positions that are more strategic than technical. All those C-level, CEO, CIO, CTO, right? If you decide to just remain, on your own path, right, which is just, in the individual contributor, right, just working in isolation, you might at some point find out that your peers who, you all started together, who have more, they have a knack for managing
Management,
people,
yeah.
you might in the long run, you might actually end up reporting to them. And I don't know if you would like that, because if you all started the same way, you probably know you have equal capabilities, about you, equal knowledge, equal years of experience, but because you chose your path and your peers chose that path, you end up reporting to them, and they start in the long run, they start making decisions over your job. They start, when you start reporting to them and they tell you, oh, this is not good enough, right? And this, so I'm just being quite realistic, right? When your colleague or your peer gets to a position where they start criticizing your work, where they start giving you instructions and telling you, okay, you have to do it this way, this is not good enough, or they end up having hire and fire power over what you do, I think it's something you want to reconsider. So I would like the participants to engage us on that discussion if they have an opinion on it.
Yeah, guys, Katchy, Roots, Sheyi, Diola, Joy, Crypto, Victor, I know Victor wants to talk. Victor, yes, I know you like to talk. Mayowa, I mean, what's your thought around this? I mean, being an individual contributor or a manager, what would you think? I mean,
wow, interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you, our faculties. Okay, so Gideon has said it all, and that's the perspective I will want to take. Okay, this technical thing, we are talking of managing process, people, and technology. So, but this person that is breaking things is only looking at the technical. So it's not an all-rounder. It's not somebody that can manage the business. And the IT business goes beyond being technical. It's an overall thing. So you want to manage resources where human beings are even the main actors here. So meaning that you need the soft skills to manage human beings. Otherwise, business goals will not be achieved, right? So and business is not all about one person. It's about teamwork. How you can be able to manage people, get them to deliver on expectations. For me, I just want to go with that. And that is even what is critical. What is the essence of a business, of a skill that I have, that I cannot duplicate myself as many people as possible? What kind of job am I doing that I cannot delegate people to act on my behalf? What kind of job am I doing that I cannot oversee? I can only work in silo, meaning that I'm restricted. Let's say I'm working in UK now, UK office unit. I cannot work in across EMEA or Europe or Africa. I cannot say, okay, I have people that are reporting to me. No, that won't be fine. So
yeah, I agree with you guys, but the thing is, not everybody can be a manager, right? And not everybody enjoys being a manager. And that is why company kind of creates like an individual contributor part and a managerial part. And so, yes, Gideon, you said you want to be able to delegate and, you are the one in the hiring and firing side and likes. But if I'm a principal security engineer, for instance, I might even be any more than you. I don't know, in the same organization. It's just my thoughts. Like,
I'm sorry to cut in. Everything is not about what you earn. It's about visibility. It's about influence. It's about who are the people making calls in an organization, taking decisions. Of course, when we want to roll out products, we will call you in to give us an idea, to tell us, okay, this and this and that. But when it comes to who are the management, who are the people making decisions, you are not there. These people will make even decisions that will work contrary to you. And it's easy to say hire and fire as well. So really, any job you are doing that's not going to take you to the top, and that is not a job to follow. Seriously, because money is available. Every IT area gives you money. There is no IT area that doesn't give money. So what you really need at a point in your career is the influence that you can do, how many people you can touch, how many people reporting to you. Those are the way you, and the interactions you bring to the table, the value you bring. That's what will really determine the people to really feel you in the industry and the world as a whole. But when you are just thinking, okay, thinking in silo, then working just for this company, then you are not there yet. You are not there.
Well, sorry. Let me. Sorry, I have
okay.
an
Yes.
opinion.
Yes.
I agree with what he's saying, but then in the real sense, managerial role is not really the peak of it, because, for example, if Ronaldo is in the club and he does not like his manager, they can, because of Ronaldo, sack the manager. That's because. So if you are a technical person and everybody will not be a manager, and you are very, very good with what you do, you might even be indispensable to the company to the extent that they can, because of his sack a manager, if you tell them, if this person keeps doing any hours. So I understand that managerial role is probably the peak of everybody, the growth in class, but also we all won't be in the managerial level at the same time. There are some technical positions that you get to hand that you are really, you won't have to manage anybody, because I have experience as a project manager, and it's not easy getting, some people really don't like to get managing people. Yeah, because okay, I have an experience in an IT company and we work with developers. There are some we try to get them to do things for us, but I can tell you that there are some people that, even though we know that we are trying to get them to do things, they are still somehow our Oga, because we really need the input of what they want to bring in so much. So the managerial is interesting. Okay.
So let me also share this. Okay.
Share if I conclude. You can.
Let me also just share this with the participants. So this is something I experienced on the job. It was an experience. So I had this manager. Helen, you know the person I'm talking about. He's one of the best penetration tech. When it comes to technical skills, he's very good. He's fantastic, right? But because he was exceptionally good, that organization I worked in had to make him a manager, right? And as a manager, you don't get to, what you'll be doing is more project management, right? And you'll be managing so many engagements. You don't get to put your hands on things, right? But because that person really loved doing hands-on, right? The approach he then used was, whoever is reporting to him, he will keep giving you that guidance. He will even show you how to do it, but you have to do it, the way, he shows you to, it has to be done. And then he reviews, right? And I think one issue that came up, which I observed, was my colleague who I met on that job, right? Over time, I got to discover that my colleague and that manager are peers. They are actually on the same, their career is, they started on the same level, but over time, the guy became his manager, and then my colleague has to report to that manager. I kind of noticed some sort of friction, right, between the two of them, and over time, I saw the discontentment in the eyes of my colleague, who feels, the person who is a manager is his, what do you call it, is his mate, right? He's not, he just had the opportunity to have a managerial position. He reviews his work, right? He reviews his work. He tells him this is not good enough. In fact, he even appraises him. He can say, oh, your performance is not good enough, right? So these are the things you should, in the long run, I know, in my opinion anyway, in the medium term, if you're at the midpoint of your career, you might just want to stay on the back end. But cybersecurity is a business enabler. And so if you want to be someone who works within the business, you need to go up. You need to go up. That's just my opinion anyway.
Yeah, so I think in summary, you might start as an individual contributor, but along the line, you might want to kind of start eyeing the managerial role. But if it's not your strength, you are free to continue as a principal security engineer and become the best in your company or organization. Yeah, I think it all depends on people, right? It all depends on your capability and ability, really. So it's
Hello?
not like,
Hello.
okay,
yeah. Sorry that I cut in. Yeah, so I think really this expertise that we are talking about, they eventually become disgruntled along the line, because the way organizations are structured. See, for example, now if I have technical areas, I mean, I have information technology, and I have one guy that is just technical. Are you with me? The tendency is that, and I want somebody to really be overseeing that arm of the business. Okay, what I'm going to do is to have a backup to that person who has managerial expertise, better than this person that is saying that is technical, right? And over time, what that means is whenever we want to discuss business, is the second person will be calling in to come and discuss, to come and relate with customers, to come and do one or two things or the other. And with that one we have visibility, we have influence in the organization, and the business will even commit more to that person than this other person that is running away from managing people. So people that do not manage people don't go far. That's what I have seen in my own 20 years experience. People that do not know how to manage people, they don't go far, because they believe that even when you commit people under their care, they will just destabilize your place. So they will rather say, okay, no, leave that man, let us be paying him. He's going to 50 years, he's going to 60 years, he's still doing what and he's still to himself. Then whereas you have another 40 or 45 that can actually get all the other people doing what they need to do and getting the best from that. So that's just it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, this brings me to my next question. So because I just want to ask, so for example, for someone that has managerial skills already and you want to go into cybersecurity, what role are you supposed to begin with? Like, is there a way, even as a beginner in cybersecurity, you can try to maybe, and you have experience as a project manager in IT already, how do you infiltrate cybersecurity with those?
That's a very good question, Aziza. I would encourage, if anyone has very good project management skills, I'll encourage that person to go into audits and compliance. It's a field called audit and compliance. It's very good. It's high paying, and I will categorically tell you that if you go into audits and compliance, you would start from the top. You will start managing technical people. Since you already have that project management skill, you will start managing technical people if you go into audit and compliance. So yeah, that's a very good skill to bring into the industry.
Okay, thank you. So like, I think this audit was talked about in the last class. You try the compliance. Is there any certification or things that you need to get going before you start, trying to apply or anything? What are the other skills that you need to have that tailors one into that line properly?
Okay, so let me give you a high-level description of the work I do as a consultant, right? As a consultant, you do you are engaged on so many cybersecurity projects, different kinds. Some are technical, some are more strategic, right? And so I will encourage you to go for CISA, Certified Information Systems Auditor. Is by ISACA, CISA. If you do that, right, you would be able to, because on every cybersecurity job you do, right, you need to develop, you need to follow that project management schedule, where you develop the scope, the schedule, the timeline, right, and you develop a roadmap or a work plan or action plan, right. If you can acquire that CISA, right, you can apply all of these project management skills that you have, to conduct audits, to do compliance assessments. And yeah, you would get, that's one of the fastest way to get to the top in cyber.
Thank you. Before we go back to our question processes, I think crypto is raising his or her hand. Crypto. Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So far, I've been gaining a lot of things from this conversation, and I just want to say something. Like, while everybody is trying to push for the position of a project manager, which of course is interesting, and the power to hire and fire, interesting one. For somebody who is around 45 years upward, is it possible to push for consultancy to like stand on his or her own, haven't garnered enough technical experience? Is it advisable to just start as a consultant instead? Because like somebody said earlier, not everybody can be a project manager. So I don't know what's the opinion here.
Yeah, Chinua or Gideon. Okay, Chinua, you've been silent this morning. Chinua is of the opinion of the IC contributor. So let's Chinua answer that question.
I'm sorry, can you just summarize the question again?
So okay, Katchy. Crypto, you can answer the question. I mean, ask the question.
Okay, so the question is, instead of pushing for the role of a project manager in the cybersecurity industry, can you just start off as a consultant instead? That's the question in summary.
Okay, so do you mean like setting up your own consultancy company or working for a company as a consultant?
Either of the two.
Yeah, so Chinua, before you answer the question, I think he's trying to say, okay, I don't want to go into the management part. I want to be an individual contributor. But along the line, can I just, work as a consultant for companies or start my own consulting firm? Yeah. So I think that was his question.
Yes. So, I mean, if you're working as a security consultant for a company, let's say a big four like Gideon, it still be either an individual contributor or a manager. So it still depends on if you want to just be an individual contributor or if you want to be a manager. But if you're working for a company, you have to choose one of these. But if you're talking of setting up your own consultancy company, then sure, you can do that. But a lot of the people that I know who own companies, so usually they would have worked in other companies for a certain number of years to gain experience before they talk of setting up their own company. So some of them might have been working in big four or banks or other companies before they talk of setting up their own company. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the experience that it takes for you to not only run a company, but even just how to interact with your customers and your clients. So it's very important for you to get that experience working first before you decide what next you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Chinua. Gideon, do you want to contribute or should we move to the next question?
Chinua has actually covered everything. I think what I'll just add to it is, just as Chinua said, before you start your cyber consulting firm, you should work with other consulting firms, as an employee, just to know the industry leading, practices, right? And also to build your network, because, when you start your company, you need to have that network, that you can reach out to. And this question you asked, Crypto, is a very good question, because I've seen it here in Canada where, so many people who work for, the big fours or other consulting, relatively smaller consulting firms, they then start up their own companies, right? And then start poaching professionals from the big four. I've had, interviews with those kind of companies. They are my colleagues, but of course, in more senior positions, they have spent longer years in the big fours or any other consulting firm. And now that they started their company, they will now go into those other consulting firms and poach people. So if you feel you have, some of that business, business relation, business management, project management, expertise, and you really, really want to start your company, then you need to build a team of professionals who have worked in those industries. And if you have that, then you can decide to be probably a backsteering consultant, or if you feel you have very good relationship management, or you can communicate well with clients, then you do that, you secure the contract and you hand it over to your in-house security team to execute the job. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think another angle to this is you're a technical person, you've never even worked with a consulting firm, or you were never a consultant before. However, maybe you have like 20 years of work experience in cybersecurity as a security engineer, and you are tired of working under a particular organization. You can actually be a consultant to many organizations, like in terms of contracts. E.g., they would say, we need a SIM engineer consultant. But because you are so vast when it comes to SIM is security data and event management solution, like you have a lot of experience with a particular tool, say QRadar or Splunk or Azure Sentinel. You might be a consultant for an organization. Okay, they want to set up their SIM solution, and then you can just work with them for like 2 or 3 months and then look for another company again. You can actually be on your own. You don't necessarily have to manage people. Sorry, I'm on the IC side. I'm not saying I want to be an IC person, but I'm just trying to kind of open our mind to different angles in which you can actually, further your career into cybersecurity. Yeah, and question from Ruth. Ruth is saying, how many months did you study for before writing the computer exams? And at what point do you feel you are ready for the cybersecurity industry? So I think the first question might go to Chinua, and the second question might go to Gideon. So Chinua, how many months did you study before writing the exam? And Gideon, at what point do you feel you are ready for the cybersecurity industry?
So for me, I think I think I wrote my Sec Plus about 5 years ago now. So I can't remember exactly, but maybe like 6 months. But I have a lot of mentees who are also studying for Security Plus, and on average, it usually takes like 6 months. You can get it earlier if you're faster. It all depends on your schedule, if you are a full-time student or if you're working. But let's just say on average, it takes 6 months. And so to answer your second question, I don't think, well, for me anyways, I don't think there's ever any point you get to where you feel like you are ready.
You're ready.
Even after several years of experience, there are some days where you feel like you don't know anything. There are some days where you feel like, yes, I'm good. And there are some days where you feel like, I don't know anything. Especially when you're starting a new job like I am, and you're going to a company where you have to start learning a lot of things. It's always very challenging. So you need to be someone who likes to study and learn every day if you really want to be successful in this industry.
Yeah, that's correct. Gideon, do you have? So I think before Gideon talks, Gideon might say you can be ready in 1 week. You might want to disregard that one. So Gideon.
That's a very good heads up Helen gave you, right? Because my own approach to things, which I would also encourage every participant here to have that mindset. Mindset is everything, right? And if you have that mindset that whatever you set your mind to do, you will do, then I can tell you that at some point you might feel, okay, you are ready. But to be frank, to be very realistic, you never really feel ready. What you can just consider is how much work you have done. There are some times I take professional certifications, very difficult ones, and I just keep reading and reading, treating questions, and I feel I'm not ready. But sometimes I consider how much work have I done, right? And so you can look at that. You can consider how much work have you done? Have you really done? And if you feel you have done, a lot, or you have done enough, and you can use that to encourage yourself. Because I can tell you categorically that people who don't probably do as much as you do, but have the courage to go after those things, with confidence, they might succeed, they might fail, but the important thing is your mindset. And so for someone who wants to know what point they are ready, I would say you should base that on how much work you have done. How much training have you done, how much research have you done. If you feel you have done a lot and you are very well aware of what's going on in the industry, you have networked with professionals, you have heard their opinions or their contributions, and you have really put in the work, then I will encourage you to always go after it. If you feel, you get up and go after it again. Eventually you succeed.
Yeah. Thank you, Chinua. Thank you, Gideon. Like they both said, you can never be ready. Exactly. But like what Chinua said about the computer security plus 6 months, yes, I think for CompTIA exams, you should not spend more than 6 months actually preparing for the exam. If you are going beyond 6 months, you might actually lose track. Like you wouldn't even feel the energy to write the exam again. And I think I have experience around one particular exam, CISSP. When Gideon and Chinua were preparing for CISSP, I also prepared, I failed, and I didn't pass it. And then I said, okay, I would write this exam in another 3 months. And should be told, ask Gideon, ask Chinua, I did not write the exam until after 1 year again. And, and it's just because I wasn't, should I say I did not kind of motivate myself, or I did not have like a goal in mind, So there's a point, some points you will feel like, okay, maybe I'm not ready, but you can never be ready at all. You can never be ready. And like what Chinua said also, Chinua said, at times you feel like I don't know anything. Yes, I can relate to that as well. I mean, there are some interviews I did of recent, and they were asking me the basics and I could not answer it. And it's not because I've not heard of those terms before, but I realized I don't know them again, that kind of a thing. So cybersecurity actually involves you in a way reading every day. Even if it's like 1 hour every day, you learn new things every day. It might not be like necessarily opening your PowerPoint and you start reading or something. Maybe from all these cybersecurity open sources, LinkedIn, YouTube, all these hacker news, a lot of things you learn and read every day. Yeah, thank you, Chinua, thank you, Gideon. And my question, since we have no question from our participants, is what are the most common obstacles you face in your career, and how did you overcome them? What are the most common obstacles you face in your career, and how did you overcome them?
So for me, I think it's easy. My biggest challenge was getting my first job. And I think that would be the biggest challenge for most people as well. So getting the first job, it's always the hardest one to get. Once you got your first job and you have years of experience, then switching jobs becomes a whole lot easier. So getting your foot in the door basically is always the biggest challenge when it comes to breaking into cybersecurity.
Okay, so how did you overcome the first inertia?
So it took me years for me to get my first cybersecurity job. So I was working in an IT role, but that was not really what I wanted to do. So I kept on applying, and I don't know how many years it took me. 2 years. Part of the reason was because I was in a location where there were not a lot of companies. So I was in Abuja, and most of the companies are all in Lagos. So you do an interview and they will tell you you have to come to Lagos. I was not interested in going to Lagos. So that was why it took me that long. So I just kept on applying until I eventually got my first role. So it's very important for you to be persistent, because I've had some people tell me that they did 2 or 3 interviews and it was not successful. And I'm like, 3 interviews.
3 interviews.
How about you try 70 and then see how that goes? So you need to just keep on being persistent, because that's just how you overcome any obstacle that you encounter.
Yeah, thank you, Chinua. Gideon, do you have contribution to that?
I think Chinua has hit the nail on the head. Usually the very first job is the challenge you will have. And even when you get that job, you would have to sometimes prove yourself, because, you might be on probation, or for someone who even has, the truth about cybersecurity is that there are always challenges, right? No matter how much you have mastered your role or your tasks, because the threat landscape keeps changing, right? It's a very practical field, it's a very technical field. If you are not even a technical person, new regulations will come up, new approaches to things will come up, and so you just at every point in time have to keep proving yourself. But if you maintain a positive mindset, and you are very resilient, if it's a job you are going after, you consistently apply for send out applications and network with people. If you are trying to maintain your position in a company, if you have you've been promoted into a more senior position where you have to perform, right? Because those kind of challenges would often come at you, and so if you just maintain that mindset that you really want to provide values, you want to be good at what you do, and you continuously take your research and learn and take trainings. Nobody is above trainings. Even when I conduct audits for companies, right? Their senior executives, they could say their CISO or their the chief privacy officer. We try to look at how frequently do you train these people, right? Because the business understands, the challenges. You would always face challenges, even when you are in the job, not just when you're outside. When you get a new job, when you get a new role, you just have to continuously study. You just have to continuously study. And you would achieve, you overcome that limitation or
limitation. Challenge. Yeah. I mean, you're all right. And I remember that I have a friend, a mentor turned to friend. She studied economics and she's in Canada at the moment. And she does not even have any IT experience. And from her story, she started with Computer Security Plus. So she read Computer N Plus, but she did not write the exam. And then she studied Computer Security Plus and wrote the exam. And then she was able to get her first job in cybersecurity. So one obstacle for her is, how do I even cross to cybersecurity? And then maybe because Canada too has like more job opportunities than like Nigeria or some African countries. However, I'm sure she puts in the hard work, right? And she crossed to cybersecurity, and then now performing on the job was another kind of challenge for her. But she never overestimated the ability of, or the power of mentorship, power of networking. And then we are in one group called She Secure, like female cybersecurity professionals are there. I see her asking questions like every time, oh, how do you do this? If I want to do this, how do you do this? And that was how I even got to know her. And, I sent her a private chat. And then before you know, we kind of do some hands-on together. And right now, I would say she hardly asks questions. And she started like last year, August, and now she's able to do it without anybody handholding her. And would you say that kind of person does not kind of experience obstacles or challenges? Yes, she experienced that, but she didn't keep quiet. She utilizes the benefit of networking and mentorship for her career paths. And and I think that's another good example of how you can actually overcome obstacles or challenges. So there is this question from Daniel. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel from Togo. I want to know, what is your darling task like someone who works in cybersecurity domain? If Chinua or Gideon understands the question, please.
Yes, so I guess you mean daily tasks, like what I
Okay, your daily tasks. Okay. So okay.
You must have had this, that no 2 days in cybersecurity are the same. Yeah. So it usually varies from week to week, depending on if there's a particular project we're working on. But on a typical day, so usually I go through the alerts on our SIM tool, which Helen has mentioned what SIM tool is. So we go through the alerts and see if there are any alerts or incidents that we need to investigate and respond to. I also go through the vulnerability scan reports, if there are any vulnerabilities in our organization. And then if there are vulnerabilities, then usually I would recommend steps for the IT team to fix those vulnerabilities and also ensure that they fix it as well. Currently, I'm working on ISO 27017 certification, which is for cloud service providers. So it involves a lot of documentation, collaboration with other departments, and making sure that we have all the documents and processes in place for us to pass the audits. And also, I also work on disaster recovery testing as well. So usually we have a disaster recovery plan. So usually make sure that we've tested out all our disaster recovery plans for the year. So yes, there's also the security awareness part as well. So we usually do security awareness for employees in the company to make them aware of the various cybersecurity threats that are out there, like phishing, social engineering, ransomware, and all of that, to make sure that they don't fall victims to cyber attacks. And we also do awareness for our engineers as well. So we have software engineers, we have DevOps engineers. So we usually do security awareness to make sure that you are not making security mistakes when it comes to using code, or also generally in the DevOps process. So that's typically what I do on a day-to-day basis. So it's a mixture between technical and also a little bit of high-level policy
process. Yeah. Thank you, Chinua. Gideon, you might want to tell us about yes.
I think from a candid position, sometimes I actually hate my job. Yes, because sometimes, I say to myself that in the next life, I'm not even I'm just going to be an actor or a musician, because sometimes I get to that point, where, you just get mentally taxed. But essentially the job routines I have currently are very dynamic. Today they could say we are conducting an audit, right? Tomorrow we are trying to help, the client build their security program. And from a strategic point, sometimes we do process reviews, right? And, we try to identify gaps in their processes. It could be, identifying gaps in their security programs, and making recommendations, developing roadmaps for the clients, right? Sometimes we do security controls assessments. That's their technical security controls. We review them, we assess them, and identify, gaps or risks. Sometimes we do cyber risk management related audits or process improvements. Sometimes we could do privacy compliance assessments. Sometimes we could do capability, cyber capability maturity review, right? Maybe the security program of the organization, what kind of what's the maturity of their security program like, and that could mean the technical, from a technical perspective, could also be from a strategic point of view, right? And, so also, we also do a lot of policy reviews and policy development, depending on what the client wants. So yeah, for me, I just have that very dynamic work process, right? And I would say you can never really say you have mastered your job routine, as opposed to, there are some job tasks where it's just a routine, kind of you conduct routine processes every day, you do the same thing, But in our case, right, today, I'm working on cybersecurity, cyber risk, just different kinds of engagement, right? Also, it's a challenge, for me. It's always a challenge, learning new things, and also an opportunity to improve yourself. Yeah, so that's the positive side of the job routine. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Chinua. I think Chinua and Gideon, they've made justice to that in terms of information security analyst and cyber security and risk consultants. I can't even say much about other cybersecurity domain because I'm also an analyst. But if Gideon or Chinua, if you have an idea about a typical security engineer role, like what do they do, like security architect, security engineer, DevSecOps, do you have an idea about what they do on a normal day-to-day? And you can also help add that.
So I've worked as a security engineer before. So first of all, it's important to note that in the cybersecurity industry, job titles are not they are not very structured. So you can say a job title that says analyst and you're doing the work of a manager, but you might see a title that says manager and you're doing a lot of hands-on.
Nice.
So you really need to look at the job description itself, not necessarily the job title. But typically, security engineers are the ones who build up the security systems. They are the ones who configure the SIEM solutions, data loss prevention, endpoint detection and response, vulnerability scanning. So engineers are the ones tools and maintain those tools, while the analysts are usually the ones who monitor the tools and investigate anything that is going on in those tools. So that's usually the distinction between engineer and analyst. Typically, engineers are more senior to analysts because it requires more technical knowledge, but it really depends on.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I remember my first job, I was given the title of security engineer. and I did not do anything configuration. I was more of an internal auditor. Like I was basically sitting on implementation of ISO 2001, 20,000, 27,000, PCI DSS, BCMS, QMS, and I was a security engineer. And at the end of my 2 years, I look at myself. Am I really a security engineer? But on your CV, you would want to change the job title. Just now I'm considering, I think I need to change the job title myself and say, no, I'm not an engineer. I didn't do anything engineering work. I'm more of a risk specialist or security specialist in a way. So I think we shouldn't be deceived by the job title, like Chinua said. It's just look at the JD, the job description, majorly for that. And I think another thing that I also want to mention is, so just your thought around this, Chinua or Gideon. I don't even have flair for technical. I mean, I don't like anything technical cybersecurity. I don't want to do anything technical. Can I still function in this cybersecurity domain? Can I still be like a well-known person in cybersecurity? Because I hate firewall. I don't just want to touch anything technical at all. So what would you think? I mean, what would you advise to me in that situation?
So I think what I can say regarding that is you can't really escape the technical side of cybersecurity, because IT is a technical field. It's not just it's a technical field, but the level of how technical you have to get is relative. So maybe it might just be more 35% technical and 65% 65% strategic, right? So if you are looking at that, then the kind of certifications you'll be taking will be different. The kind of trainings you have is different. Of course, your project management has to be on point. Some of those tips I shared, the soft skills I shared last week, where we talked about having very good audit skills, right? You can be an auditor. Although you have to have a working, you don't have to know how to configure all those technical solutions, but you have to know how they operate, right? So you know what to audit and determine if they are compliant. Also, you need to have, as I mentioned, audit skills, project management skills, a little bit of technical skills, say maybe 35%. For every area you are looking at, then you understand it. And this thing goes for CISOs, right? People who are senior executives, C-suite executives, at some point, they actually lose touch. They lose track of all those technical, hands-on stuff, because it will have been so many years since they, delved into those kind of things. But your strategy, you have to understand cybersecurity from a strategic point of view, and that's where we talk about the governance, the risk, and the compliance. So if you look at GRC rules, definitely you would still try, but you still need about, say, 35% of technical knowledge.
True. Thank you. And I remember something as you were just talking. There is this job role around information security awareness manager. Like, does that mean that all they do in an organization is just to sensitize people about cybersecurity awareness training, the do's and don'ts? I mean, have you come across that kind of job role on LinkedIn or anywhere?
Yeah, I think I've seen jobs like that. I've never really gotten to have a one-on-one interaction, so I will give you an audit perspective, right? If you have that kind of job role, as an auditor, what I expect to see is that you have a very, you have, first of all, the fundamental understanding of security. What are you trying to secure? Then secondly, you need to have a good understanding of the organization's culture and context, right? So what our risk, you have to liaise with the risk management team, right? You need to know what cyber risk, the risk portfolio, right, the risk profile of the organization. Then you need to start developing content based on that risk profile, right, based on the structure and culture of the organization, and also to different target audience. So yeah, it's I think it might be interesting, for someone who has that high level, not technical, but higher level knowledge of cybersecurity. Yeah, one will find that interesting.
Or someone who likes to talk or preach, in person can actually even switch into cybersecurity. Yeah. Okay. So my last question before we round up to this session. And something to note is last week's class is on YouTube. I might share the link with you guys if you're interested in audits, IT auditing or cyber risk track. My last question would be, where in your opinion should a young cybersecurity professional start their career? A small startup or a larger company or corporate organization? Chinua, what would you say?
It really depends on what you like, to be honest. If you're in Nigeria, I'm not sure you really have those kind of choices to make, to be honest, because your first job, you probably just take anything that comes, even if it's in a very small company. But it really depends on what you like. So if you really like environments that are, very corporate, like the banks or the big four, you like to wear suit and tie to work and things like that. You like to be clean, and I don't like it, so I wouldn't work in those kind of places. So it just depends on your preference, but it's about gaining a lot of experience. You will gain experience anywhere you go, whether it's the big four, whether it's the bank, whether it's a small tech company or startup. You will gain experience wherever you go to. So it just depends on your own personal preference.
Gideon, how about you? Would you have preferred to work in a startup or in a big, forget big four now. You've been preaching big four since morning. Let's leave big four in a big organization.
So I think from my experience, right, I would, maybe some people can attest to this. I will tell you that from what I know so far, if you work in a much bigger company, sometimes it can be really challenging. And the reason is because, everybody, the management, right, the way they manage a much larger group is different from, a small team. So compare a team of 15, right? If you're just 15 on your team, as opposed to being maybe 80 on that team. Now, if some of the things you see in a much larger team is, everybody is trying to get to the top, and as such, they are trying to kind of step over you or what you are doing, right? Sometimes it can be vicious. I'll be very honest with you. If you're working in a very large team, right? Because everybody is competing for smaller spaces. And so, if whatever you are doing, there might be people trying to undermine your work just so they can get to the next level. But a much smaller team, you might experience a more pleasant, management and, togetherness. Nobody trying to step over anybody. Yeah, so, it depends, but both opportunities are also good,
Yeah, I think in my mind, I think it's relative and it's debatable, really, because I've worked in a smaller organization than in a bigger organization. And from my own experience, I would say in a smaller organization, you might get to do everything, like have a bit of analyst, engineering, because you're just a team of 4 or 5 and you have to do everything security, right? And then you might maybe quickly gain more experience. I don't know. Because some smaller firms, so they cannot invest in security. And because of that, you don't have access to many tools. So there are pros and cons. And for bigger firm might be so funny that you'll be restricted to just one aspect of cybersecurity. They might even say you are a vulnerability analyst and that is all you do. You don't even understand the SOC part. So I think it varies really. I think irrespective of smaller or bigger firm, just start anyway, in my own opinion, right? Yeah. I think that's all from me, except if we have questions from the audience, comments, or you want to answer some questions as well, feel free to mute your mic and do that before we round up. We have 1 minute to the end of the session. Okay, I guess we are done. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chinua. Thank you, Gideon, for your time. I mean, Chinua, I know that you are kind of 2 hours ahead of us and it's a bit late at Germany. Gideon, it's early hours of the day in Canada, but thank you for, sacrificing your time and sharing your journey with us. It's highly appreciated. Thank you, everyone. All participants from Listening Crypto, CY, Daniel, everybody. I don't want to mention them. And thank you for listening. Thank you, Ruth, for asking questions. Thank you, Victor, for contribution. Crypto, yeah, I think that name is there because maybe I want to join the crypto company very soon. I don't know. I need the crypto money. Anyway, thank you all, and have a wonderful evening, a wonderful night, and a wonderful morning. And have a lovely week for everyone. I mean, yeah, we are all on Sundays. Yeah, have a great week ahead. Yeah, thanks everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.